Hi there, Souha here, your canine rearing and relationship coach. And in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit more about what we mean by way of life. What we at Way of Life Dog Training, the teachers and coaches of the Way of Life method, how do we define this concept called way of life? And how do we use way of life to actually change our dog's behavior, how to heal our dogs of behavior issues, how to deepen our relationships with them, our bonds with them, and how to raise sound, strong, and spirited companions at any age. You know, there's a term in science that I really love called to operationalize. To operationalize means to translate an abstract concept into something practical and measurable and that we can all understand and relate to. So, how do we operationalize the concept of way of life? This is the purpose of this video, okay? So, as concisely as possible, way of life, according to the way of life method, includes 5 elements. The first element is the stage of your relationship, which I talked about in a previous video where I discussed the logic of the way of life method, and I will include the link of that video in the description box. But essentially, because our focus is on raising dogs, rearing dogs, as opposed to training them, raising them for attitude, as opposed to training them for skills or behaviors, then it follows that we raise our dogs in stages, 3 stages. And that is a very important element of my way of life with any dog that I'm working with is what is the stage of our relationship? Are we just getting started? Is this a dog that I've had for a while? Is this a dog with behavioral issues? And as I describe in my book, The Way of Life Method, there are 3 stages. Stage 1 is childhood. And that is the stage where anyone getting started with the method fresh, that's where they start. Stage 1, the childhood or juvenile stage. Stage 2 is adolescent or teenage. Stage 3 is the age of maturity and adulthood, or what we call integration. So at stage 1, you're establishing foundations for your relationship while your relationship is in childhood. When your relationship switches to adolescent, that is where you are exposing the dog. This is the exposure stage. And then as you start to graduate towards stage 3, that is the age of adulthood or integration. So that is the first element in your way of life. What is the stage of the relationship? Okay. The second element is a very practical element, and that is the element that we call space and boundaries. Space and boundaries is about, very simply, the degree of freedom and choice that a dog has. Now, there's a lot of talk these days in the world of dog training about the dogs needing choice, the dogs needing agency. There's this idea that they are captive animals, which in many ways they are. But captivity is also not just a physical manifestation, but a state of mind. And I really believe that when a dog is dealt with properly, according to the way of life method, they do not feel captive. But anyhow, this is all to say that I'm all for the dogs having freedom, having choice, having agency, but there's a time for things. And at stage 1, when I have a new puppy, when I have a dog that I just adopted from the shelter, when I have a dog that I've been struggling with their behavior for a while, then I need to be careful about how I'm managing those spaces and boundaries. Space and boundaries is about whether a dog has a leash on them, whether they're allowed to run loose, whether they're allowed to go and greet people that, they don't know, which also touches on socialization. It speaks to whether I've got barriers and boundaries in my home, whether the dogs are crated at home or when they're being transported. Okay, so that's the second element, which is the element of space and boundaries. Third element is the element of socialization. And boy, oh boy, has this concept gotten us all in trouble, because it's this thing that your vet tells you need to do, that your trainer tells you need to do, that your breeder tells you need to do, that experts with PhDs tell you that you need to do. But the definition of what socialization is very, very poor and limited. And that is a problem for us to emphasize something so much without taking a moment to operationalize it or explain it or tell us exactly what it looks like, that is problematic. So this relentless emphasis on socialization is the reason you got dog parks, is the reason you got doggy daycares that are free for all, is the reason why people let their dogs come and meet your dog because they think that's dog socializing, is the reason why people want to come and say hello to your dog even though they don't know you, they don't know your dog, but they want to come say hi because they think that that socialization is good for the dogs. So the way we do things in the way of life method is, of course, we socialize our dogs, but we have an understanding of what that means and what that looks like. And I'll let you refer to the book for that purpose. But essentially and very briefly, there are 6 levels of socialization that we work with. And at every stage, we work with particular levels. Okay. Those levels include primordial, and that is the socialization that is between me and my dog, just the two of us. The intimacy of this primary relationship, that is primordial socialization. Okay. The next one is spatial socialization. So you just brought this dog home from the breeder or from the shelter or from the foster home. That change is socialization. The fact that your dog is experiencing a different environment, that is socialization. Okay. And when the dogs ride out exposure to a new environment, they would have gained in socialization. It may not appear to be a big thing for you, but it is a huge deal for the dog. Okay. Distal socialization means examining, considering, looking at things, people, dogs, construction sites, schoolyards, busy parking lots, whatever, from a safe distance. That is distal socialization. Proximal means you now socialize next to things. So that's the next level over from distal to proximal, socializing with people, animals, strangers, busy situations at closer range, at closer proximity. Okay. The next level over is interactional. This is where there's interaction. Go say hi, introducing a dog to another dog. There is interaction. Notice how many levels precede interactional socialization and how many of us quickly expose our dogs to interactional socialization without the benefit of all of the steps leading up to it. Okay. Last level of socialization is what we call oppositional, also known as invasive, confrontational socialization. That could be vet visits, that could be the groomers, that could be kids invading your dog's space. And that is the highest level of socialization because it is the hardest and because it is the one that requires your dog to get good at all of the preceding levels of socialization before expecting our dog to be good with the confrontational, invasive, oppositional types of socialization. Okay, so that's the third element, the element of socialization. Fourth element is drive development. So we all know that there's hundreds of breeds, and these dogs are so incredibly versatile. The things that they can do, the genetic tendencies that they come with, the natural proclivities that they come with. That is our job to find a home for, right? So my dog cannot herd sheep on a farm necessarily the way he could have one day. And so it therefore is my responsibility to find a home for the instincts that my dog has, for the drives that my dog has, whether that is through exercise, through training, or through sport. Okay. And there's many different sports out there these days, and there are many different kinds of activities, exercise formats that we can do with our dogs as a way of channeling and harnessing the incredible drives that they come with. There's a lot of emphasis on genetics, and I do not deny the power of genetics. Way of life is the powerful counterforce to genetics. It's the nurture to nature, but there is no denying the nature of a dog and the responsibility of the person nurturing that dog to meet that dog's genetic needs and tendencies through exercise, training, and sport. And again, there's a way to do exercise, training, and sport depending on the stage where you are. Okay. We don't do things at stage 1 the way I do things at stage 2 or stage 3. Very simple example to give you. I see a lot of people who are into sport. They adopt a dog on the Thursday. On the Friday, they're in class doing rally obedience. Well, that's not very appropriate in my book, okay? You need that primordial socialization with your dog before you're able to go do things like a structured sport activity. You need bond, you need relationship, you need trust before you go to a place like a sport venue and challenge your dog and ask your dog to behave and ask your dog to perform when you don't have a lot of relationship material. Okay, very good. The fifth and final element is probably the most important element, and that is the attitude and mindset of the person in that dog's life, the attitude and mindset of the primary attachment figure. You might have heard me talk about the primary attachment figure in a previous video, but the attitude, the thoughts and feelings that we have about our dogs, I cannot tell you how important these are. I won't go as far as saying that the dog can read our minds, but they can certainly feel the vibe that we put out there depending on the thoughts and feelings that we're entertaining in our hearts and minds. So for example, if you feel sorry for the dog because of the background that they came from, if you're very worried about their behavior, if you just want them to get better, all those are attitudes and thoughts and feelings that we have towards our dogs that impact the dog's behavior and therefore their relationship with you. And it's also another thing that we coach our clients in how to develop the sound and healthy attitudes and feelings to have towards their dogs so that they can deepen their bonds, raise great dogs, and fix their dog's behavioral issues. And again, those thoughts and feelings will vary across the stages. My attitude is different at stage 1 when I have a juvenile, different than when I have an adolescent, and even more different when I have an adult dog at stage 3. Okay? So, to wrap it up, you guys, there are 5 elements to how we understand way of life. Element number 1 is the stage of your relationship, which is also mirrored in the strength of your relationship and the maturity of your dog. Element number 2 is space and boundaries, which speaks to the degree of freedom that a dog enjoys. Element number 3 is socialization. And again, there's a lot of misunderstanding of that term, and we have a very clear definition of that term in the Way of Life method, as well as a scale of levels of socialization that we expose our dog to gradually. Okay, the third element is about, or I should say, the fourth element is drive development. And that is whether we are harnessing our dog's drives, our dog's natural and inherited tendencies, okay? The tendencies, the proclivities that they come with as a temperament, as a breed or a breed mix, okay? And then finally, the very important element of the attitude and mindset and how that impacts our relationship, okay? So again, another quick summary before I let you go. Stage of relationship, space and boundaries, approach to socialization, drive development, and attitude and mindset. And those 5 elements make up what we define as way of life. And when they are designed in a way that is congruent, where they fit each other and they fit the stage and level of relationship that you have, you would be amazed how the change in your way of life will end up changing your dog for the better. We know that for sure. Thank you, and bye for now.